Hey, welcome. This is Lev from Trotec Laser Canada. Jovan and Lynn are just in the background. I forgot to mention that they're. I'm going to introduce them. So, hey everyone, welcome to the Laser Jam session. I'm your host Lev. We have Mike, James, and Don, our regular team of scoundrels. Welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining. How's everyone feeling?
Star Wars movie.
Sorry?
You sound like the cast for a Star Wars movie. A cast of scoundrels.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. So we have two very awesome guests today. The first one I will introduce, her name is Lynn. Lynn from Trotec Canada, South Africa. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you feeling?
Great, and thank you for asking us to join you. It's a wonderful honor.
Thank you so much. And Lynn, it's after hours for Lynn, so she has a glass of wine, I believe, with her.
No, it's grape juice.
Grape juice. Oh, that's right. Sorry, I forgot. I thought it was. Never mind.
It's verboten.
And well, we have our. Well, actually, before we get to Jovan, Lynn, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? How long have you been with Trotec Canada in South Africa? Sure.
I've actually been with Trotec and Trotec since 1996. So about 23 years, I think it is now. So a really long time. I started repping for rubber stamp and engraving as a Trotec and craft rep. And then Trotec started being introduced into the country, and South Africa actually had one of the first machines Trotec ever sold. I think we actually have the machine serial number 001 in South Africa. So wow. We were really one of the early adopters to laser engraving. And I actually sold the first laser rubber stamp and engraving ever sold. So I've been there that long.
Wow.
Mike can understand.
Mike has been, well, he's been before Trotec actually, so it's been a while. How long has it been, Mike?
When did they invent wheels? When were wheels invented?
When did you start pedaling your car with your feet?
I was using a pantograph in 1970.
I see. Well, before I bring in our special guest, I just want to say, if you guys have any questions, let us know where you're from in the chat. Say hello. Ask lots of questions. We'd like to have a big general discussion for everyone. It doesn't have to be specifically about the topics we're discussing. Be just a general laser question that you're having and you want to ask our experts. We'd love to answer. Well, without further ado, we have Mr. Jovan Djokić. Did I say that correctly?
You did. Hi everyone.
From Botswana, Laser Tech Botswana. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're going through the continent. I mean, we've done Canada, US. We've done a bunch in Europe, and now we're in Africa. So this is awesome. We're trying to connect the global Trotec community, share ideas, inspirations, and so on. So thank you so much for spending your time after hours.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, Jovan, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your business, and I'll show your website up as you do so.
Yeah, sure. Well, Laser Tech, it was actually a small company started way back in 2002 by my mom. Actually, she with my assistance, we started up the company to do. We'll sort of expand the market of corporate branding here in Botswana, because at the time it was just printing, screen printing and what have you. So she wanted to sort of how do you say, diversify it in a way. And then we sort of looked online, and we came across Trotec in South Africa. I think Lynn will maybe correct me here if I'm wrong, but I think they were the only company selling laser machines at the time in the region.
Absolutely, we were the only one. So you actually had no choice.
We didn't really have a choice. Yeah, they forced us to get a Trotec, and I was sort of the computer guy, so I sort of helped my mom in the sort of design, Corel Draw aspect of it, and that's basically how it started. And then I sort of finished school and went to do my own thing in life as kids do, and then came back here about 5 years ago with my lovely wife, who's hopefully watching. And I took over the business, and 5 years later, here we are.
And what Trotec machine do you have?
Well, at the moment we have Rayjet, but when we first bought the first machine we got was the Speedy 1. And a fun little fact: I was watching the jam session with, I think it was your Greek guest a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
And he had one of the old Speedy 1s, and our Speedy 1 actually worked until I think about 2 years ago.
Wow. So nice. How long? So what year did you buy it? You said
2002. So
like Spiros. Yeah, Spiros bought it in 2002, I think. And well, he's still working. I think he said that he just changed the one laser tube on it. But you've had it for like what, 18, almost 18 years now. 16 years. Yeah, I mean, it was a workhorse of note. I mean, we sort of did the regular maintenance and cleaning. I think we changed the tube once or maybe twice. Once, yeah.
I remember, yeah.
I think it was just once, yeah. And to be completely honest, I think it would still, be operational had we had, one of those voltage surge protector units. Because here, with the power and everything, I think the voltage drops and things sort of damage the electronics in it. And unfortunately, there isn't anyone here really capable of sort of fixing those kind of electronics. So if we had one of those, I think, Lynn, you guys sell them. It's a Innovolt.
The Innovolt, which you actually are getting with your brand new machine that is now on its way to you. So thank you.
Yeah. We got the Innovolt with the Rayjet as well, but had we had it with the Speedy before, I think it would still be operational. So yeah, it lasted a while, but then all good things must come to an end, unfortunately. And then we got the Rayjet, and we've had the Rayjet for just over 3 years now. So, and it's still trucking along very well.
And how often do you guys use the laser during the day? I mean, the Speedy 1, now the Rayjet.
Well, I mean, the Laser Tech, what we do, it's not sort of your specialized stuff or like hobby or customized sort of specific things. I mean, we do everything. So the machine runs on a good day, it runs from 8 till 5, 6, 7 at night. Before end of year, when it's the Christmas peak and companies are doing corporate gifts and people want customized stuff, it runs from 7 a.m. till 8, 9 at night with little breaks in between, but it runs nonstop.
That's great.
I guess we have a theater from. Sorry.
It's a 30 watt.
It's a 30 watt?
Just like the Speedy 1, a 30 watt. Yeah.
Okay.
What I think a lot of people wouldn't understand about Botswana is it's a very small landlocked country. So it's only access to supplies actually through South Africa, and maybe a little bit through Namibia, but mostly South Africa. So everything that Jovan does has to come from South Africa. It's also a very small country in terms of population, with only about 2 million people. So he doesn't supply a niche market. He's actually supplying a little bit of everything. So some to the tourism industry, some to the industrial market, some for awards, some for rubber stamps. So he has a very varied customer base. And so he's an expert on all those things. He doesn't specialize in just one thing.
I wouldn't say expert, but we try to do as many things as possible, which as Lev is showing on the website, from cake toppers to plaques to name badges, customized items, corporate gifts, drinkware, a lot of
do you
different
mostly
things,
sell within Botswana, or do you ship it to countries around Botswana as well?
Mostly to Botswana. Mostly, we've had a few orders going, to South Africa, Zambia. We had some to Zimbabwe. We actually had one. It was a small order for a friend of mine who lives in Ireland. So we actually shipped a few things over to Ireland. But mostly in Gaborone, which is the capital city, and other towns around Botswana. Yeah.
And Botswana used to be part of South Africa, like it used to be all one big country, right? Was it, or was it? I know Namibia wasn't Namibia part of Rhodesia? No.
No. Okay. We've always been separate.
You have been separate. Yeah. Okay.
Always separate.
Yeah, Botswana was a British protectorate back in the day, and then in '66 they got their independence. So it was always sort of on its own in a way.
Okay, it was always on its own.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And sorry, which laser did you say that you're ordering now on top of the RayJet as well?
We're getting the RayJet U50.
Oh, the U50,
cool.
the Galvo.
The Galvo open bed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very
because
cool.
I mean, with the CO2, I mean, you can do a lot of things, but we were looking to sort of expand and diversify and do more. So that was sort of the next kind of logical step and progression in what we're doing. So I think that'll be a good addition to what we have to offer. Fingers crossed.
I saw Peter mentioned in the chat there, Lev, that Jovan was kind of their guinea pig for the new RayJet Manager software. So I was curious, like, you've been using it, you said, for 3 years now. So you used the RayJet software prior to RayJet Manager, and now you're using RayJet Manager, I assume. And I'm curious how you find the upgrade to the RayJet Manager as compared to the old RayJet Commander.
Well, considering, I sort of, what's the phrase? You cut my teeth on the Speedy One.
Right.
With the manager that it has. So when I moved onto the RayJet software, it was sort of a step back, and you had to sort of figure out, because it's a lot more simplified than the software for the Speedies.
Yes.
But I mean, it was you could pretty much do more or less what you needed to do. So now when we went through the guinea pig phase, as Peter said, of the manager, it was like, all these features that I missed before suddenly came back. So it was pretty easy to sort of fall back into using the manager as it is now. Yeah. So it's got quite a few advantages to compare to the old software. So it's good.
I'm very glad to hear that.
Yeah, and we actually have we did a RayJet Manager webinar not too long ago. If you guys want to YouTube RayJet Manager, and it will basically look like this. It's about it's just a RayJet Manager basics, and we talk all about the RayJet Manager. So I mean, Jovan, you're pretty happy with it, you'd say? I am,
yeah. I mean, one of the features that I missed the most was the positioning on the actual sort of job, because with the RayJet, I mean, it's you do it in Corel, and then that's where you position it, and then you sort of put the material in the machine, and where the laser is, that's where it starts. So from top to bottom. But now with this one, you can put the marker, and then you can position the job, top left, bottom right, wherever it suits you. So it saves a lot of time. You don't need to fiddle with the settings in Corel Draw or whatever software you're using. You can just position it quickly in the manager.
Especially if you're using the rotary tool, I find that's the area where it maybe it saves you so much in the way of maths.
Exactly. Yeah. That was, because Peter is the technician that I was always sort of getting in touch with, and I mean, he'll forgive me, but there was so many messages and emails like, how do you do this again, and how do you orientate the job? And it took a while to sort of get the hang of it, but now again with the new manager, using the rotary is a piece of cake.
And I'm just showing the video of the U300 that you managed. That you purchased. Can you tell us? I mean, in what situation where you guys were like, okay, we need to upgrade, or we need a second machine, and specifically a Galvo machine, which is not not what people are used to with the regular flatbed lasers.
Yeah. Well, first, sorry, Lynn, go ahead.
Jovan's ordered the U50, not the U50.
Oh,
Yeah, I was gonna
U50.
say,
So it's
U50
it's like the U300, but without the chassis.
without
right?
the cover on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at the end of this video you'll see both of them. So the one on the right is the U50. Yeah, there it is.
There it is. There. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I mean, we kept getting more and more requests for engraving or rather marking on stainless steel items. Particularly cutlery, watches, jewelry, tools, and quite a few other sort of stainless steel and other metallic items that you can't really do with the CO2. I mean, you can, I think, if you add that black paste or whatever it is. Yeah. But then that wasn't really cost effective, and it takes a lot of time. So we sort of stayed away from those kind of orders. And then as more and more people were requesting, for those kind of things, we started looking at what would be available. And then we spoke with Trotec in South Africa. They had the Pro Marker, Lynn.
Pro Marker at the time.
Pro Marker. Yeah.
Yeah. But then we were sort of hesitant, just about the price and all that. And then they mentioned the Rayjet sort of option, the U300 and the U50, and I was like, yeah, that's the way to go. And plus, it can do marking on plastic pens as sort of your corporate little gifts and trinkets. So that was also a big plus. So hopefully, it'll boost our business and sales and sort of diversify our range of services and products even more.
And you ordered special glasses too, right?
Yeah.
Good boy.
Yeah, I was told that because it will damage your eyes if you look at it, and I saw the demos when I went down to see, and I mean it's fascinating to watch. So I mean, obviously, the more you look at it, the more danger you are of damaging your eyes. So they recommended, yeah, definitely you'll need to get the safety goggles as well.
And for all the kids out there, he's talking the safety goggles for the U50. For the U300 and other fiber lasers, you don't need special goggles because of the chassis and the window and things like that. But the U50 is an exposed class 4 laser, so you absolutely need them for that.
Yeah.
And Jovan, you had we actually asked our guests if they can have questions for us, for the experts, for Mike and James. I know you sent us a couple. I mean, if you don't have it in front of you, I do. I can read those out if you want to ask them now.
Yeah, I have them somewhere. Yeah, the first one was it's related. It's related to that photo of the.
Oh, I'll pull it up one second.
Yeah, if you have, yeah.
Yeah, so one with
when doing sort of trolleys, whichever color, whether it's the gold or the silver. I mean, most of the time, we just engrave, so you just see the black lettering. But in some cases, you'd want to sort of engrave, like that. So you want to engrave the background so that the gold will stand out. But what I found is often because you're engraving so much in that darker section, that the edges will start bending. So how do you sort of, what settings would you use, or what would you do to sort of get the same effect, but without the bending of the material?
Yeah, I did that when I started engraving like 6 years ago when I started with Trotec, and I made this one sign, and a big section was kind of like this. It had a huge black background, and it was warping the material. And we make fun because Mike yelled saying, "There's too much black, Lev." I mean, Mike, what do you?
We've all done it, Lev. I've done it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that 1.5 millimeter? Is that like?
Yeah, it's the 1.6. Yeah.
1.6. Yeah. So, did you ever watch my video on doing plastic?
I've watched a few of them, but I don't remember seeing that one.
Yeah, I've done my 45-minute rant on doing plastic.
Customers love that one.
If you type in trolleys on YouTube, how to engrave laserable plastic, it's the first one. It's the 40-minute rant.
Yeah.
But Mike, do you want to give us a gist for you?
If you want to find
Yeah.
Mike Clark's YouTube channel, just type Laser Rant and you'll find it really fast.
Yeah. Well, I think your engraving is good. Are you going out of focus a little bit?
No, just
No?
on
Okay.
point with the focus.
I normally go out of focus a little bit just to get the black to stay a lot like a shinier black.
Okay.
But the big thing here is to use the engraver's table tape. And I don't know if you're familiar with that tape. And I don't know, again, if you're selling that in South Africa or
No,
not, Lynn?
we don't.
So you're probably going to have to go and get that from some other source. What it is it's two-way tape, and it's more aggressive on one side than the other, and it allows you. We use it a lot when we're using the CNC machines. There, I'm putting it down on the table right now.
It's an industrial double-sided adhesive tape.
Well, it shouldn't say industrial. It's more aggressive on one side, which is the side you put down on the bed, and it's less aggressive on the top side. But if you use standard two-way tape, it's really hard to get it off the material.
I've used standard two-way tape instead, but what I do is I play bongos on it for about a minute and a half just to get the oil from my hands on the top. That way it has some release on the top and some grab on the bottom. So it's an alternative if you can't find it.
Yeah, because I mean, I've tried using just that very thin double-sided tape. And I found that, I mean, the one I use, it can peel off very easily. And it sticks to the material very well, but it doesn't stick to the table.
Yeah.
Well, so, I mean, I end up using sort of weights to hold the material flat.
Yeah, which you can do, but again, the engraver's table tape, and I'm doing a full sheet here with full coverage, and I don't get any warpage at all on the material. So, I always tell people, I mean, a couple of things: you got to use the least amount of power that you can get away with, right? That's the one thing. Second trick is when you cut out, don't cut a rectangle, cut a line, which is what I do in the video. Right, because a lot of people here would have duplicated the 1x3 with a box on it, and then put the next 1x3 beside it, and then you'd have double cutting.
They go over the same line,
over the same line. But yeah, again, on the Speedy 300 bed, because it's ferromagnetic, you could use magnets on it. I think you mentioned in the video you put down some stainless steel sheets, which again, you could go to that, but you can see there's no warpage at all on here. And the nice thing about this is I'm not cutting all the way through the material, right? So if you don't cut all the way through the material, when you're done, then you can take the whole sheet off the bed, and then you can clean it, and then you can break the pieces apart, right? So you still have that connection, right, between the material. And this works with 90-degree corners, which your sample looks like it's 90 degree. And if you have a rounded edge, then it's a little bit more difficult. But you can see here when I'm done, then I'm going to take out the full sheet, and see, I'm going to clean it, or you could take it off and clean it. And then you can then take them and just snap them apart. And this is a technique we used to use in the old days with the CNC machines. Here I'm breaking it apart now. So I'm still leaving a little bit of material there, which does two things for me. One is it gives me that strength, and the other thing is I'm not going all the way through, so I'm generating a little less residue. Okay. So it's the same question that I get over and over and over. So I just got to the point where I went, I can't handle this anymore. I'm gonna do a video.
Jovan, have you tried doing maybe two different materials instead of just engraving with a full black? You would have a black material and cut around, and then we don't have the gold. It's the gold text, right? We don't have a gold core that would match up with that. Oh, I wasn't even I was saying not even engrave it.
Oh, I see. Okay,
but actually just do one square like this of gold, and then one full square like this of black, and then with the letters you can just cut them out on another piece of gold and black. And
that would be tough on something so small.
Of work.
This is about 5 by 5 centimeters, so it's quite small.
Yeah, so it's an inch by an inch, right? So or 2 inches. Sorry.
I mean, and the effect, I don't know, I presume if the power was less, it wouldn't, warp so much, but it's a nice effect, when you engrave the background as much. So you sort of get that little elevation in the letters. But I guess
I'm interested on that on your job there, because it looks like you've gone out of focus, because it is a solid black material, right? Normally, if you were in focus, the only time you would ever get a black like that is if it was non-laserable material, if it was like an ABS core, right? So that's why I thought you were going out of focus, right? Like it's nice and clean, which is not normally something you would get. So
Rayjet has a little different beam property than what we're used to on Speedies.
Yeah, but you're still generating dust in acrylic. So the idea, but you're right, the beam definitely isn't as good a quality as you would have on a Speedy machine. So
yeah. I mean, I try to do it always all in focus.
Well, again, the problem with acrylic-based material is that it creates white dust, and it's the white dust that gets into the black core, and the black, then you get kind of a grayish image, right? It's just a constant complaint in the industry. It's been there for years.
That issue I've had when I engrave something where the engraving is white, and then the dust gets into the white letters, and then that's a problem to clean out properly.
Going out of focus will cause the material to melt a little bit more. It does generate a little bit more heat, so again, you're going to have a bit more problem with warpage, right? But again, if you tape down with the tape, it normally works good. And like Jimmy said, I mean, you can try some good two-way tape, like some good Tesla tape, and if you have Tesla tape, which you should have if you're doing awards, right? Some good two-way tape for putting plates on the plaques and everything like that. So I maybe try some of that and then strategically put it where that black bar is going to be. But when you cut it, if you keep them connected, you might find it a little bit better. Because now the problem is once you cut that material, it wants to do this. It automatically wants to bow, right? So, that's if you can keep that connected, then you will have less issues. So.
Okay, cool. I'll give that a try. Thanks.
So we have a good question from Don here, and guys, keep sending us your questions on chat. So I have a newer Speedy 300, which is available with a fiber upgrade, which is more economical. U300 550 or put fiber on the Speedy 300. So they're talking about upgrading it to a flex. Mm-hmm. I mean, there obviously one would be a flatbed and the other one would be a Galvo. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
I wouldn't talk economics at that point. The economics is going to come in with what you actually need to do with your machine. So with the fiber upgrade on a Speedy 300, you're going to be able to cut a jig with the CO2 part and throw your parts in the metal parts into the jigs, and then engrave them with the fiber all in one machine, completely accurately placed and registered. So with the U350, you're doing one or maybe four parts at a time if they're small. So your labor cost on a U300 or U50 is going to be you're going to have somebody in front of that machine constantly, because the parts come out so fast. You can't just load a large bed full of parts and walk away. So it all depends on whether you're a one-person operation or a five-person operation. How much labor do you want to spend? And you have to sort of weigh that to how fast you want the parts to come out. Because the U300 is going to produce like an anodized aluminum part or a stainless steel part much faster than you will on a Speedy 300. But the downside of that, as I said, is that you have to have somebody sitting in front of that machine. So speed versus labor at that point. With a Speedy 300 fiber upgrade, their parts aren't going to come out as fast, but you can load 35, 40, 50, 100 parts, depending on size, and walk away from the machine to the next workstation 3 feet away and do something else.
Yeah, I had a customer actually did time study with a Galvo system versus a plotter system. and they were doing pens, and actually they were faster with the with a Galvo system because they were putting one in at a time, and they were taking that one out, putting the new one in, putting the one they just engraved in the box. So again, like Jimmy said, it really depends on what you're doing. And I would, Don, I don't know where you are, but I would very, very strongly suggest that you go to your Trotec distributor, like your sales rep, distributor or salesperson, depending where you are, and just do some testing, because it depends. Like again, and like Jimmy said, it depends on what you're doing. Like if you're looking for deep etching in metal, then the Galvo is going to be better. If you're just looking for surface etching and you're looking for larger, pieces where you can put a whole bunch more in at a time, might be better on the Speedy 300.
Or even like large objects like rifles and.
Yeah, again, you might not get that in. Well, if you've got the U50, it's
the U300. Yeah,
you've got the open case.
Yeah,
right. You've got the open case if you've got the 50, right? So it really.
Well, I mean, it also depends
on what you're doing, and I really.
Yeah. Because if you get the U300 or the U50, I mean, you've got.
Sorry, yeah. There's a little delay with Mike's microphone. Go ahead, Jovan.
I was going to say, if you get the additional machine, you've obviously got two machines, so your Speedy 300 can do one job, and then you can put another job in the fiber in the U300 or the U50, so you can do multiple jobs at the same time. But again, as James said, it depends if you have more people to operate it or not.
True.
Yeah, everybody's different. Everybody's application's different. So
yeah,
that's exactly right.
We have a good question from Rajiv from Innovative India. Hi, Rajiv. How is the life of the tubes in the ray jets? Mike or James, do you want to?
Very strong. Very good. Yes. It's
I mean, when we're talking.
It's a metal tube. It's
ahead.
not a ceramic core. It's a metal tube. So, and those metal tubes last a long time. Again, I don't want to give out times and anything like that, because it really depends on how much you're using and everything. But the tubes on the ray jets, I mean, the people that have them have had them for a long time, and they don't seem to be replacing them, on a very regular cycle. They seem to last years and years. So,
can you guys go ahead, Lynn? So sorry about that. Go ahead. So, sorry, Lynn, were you going to add something?
I was just going to say our ray jets have proven to be very, very reliable, especially in Africa, where we have electricity issues, along with obviously a power surge protector like our Innovolts. They've just proved to be absolute workhorses, and maintenance very low, tubes last forever. People are incredibly happy with them.
Can you guys maybe Mike or James give us a brief on the tubes? I mean, for those that don't know, well, what's the difference between glass, ceramic, metals? Like a very kind of brief overview.
Well, the glass tubes, obviously they're. I mean, I think actually Mike is a good one to talk about glass tubes. I don't deal with them very often here.
Well, the glass tube is basically a direct the DC input, like it's direct power coming in, and there's no amplification of the actual power. So the problem a lot of times, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay,
go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. So the problem, a lot of problems with the glass tubes is they don't typically last very long, and so they tend to burn out a lot faster, and their switching rates tend to be very slow. And the way I sort of always give an example to people is a laser tube is just like a neon light in your ceiling. So switching rate is how fast it turns on, goes to high power, and comes back down again. So if you're sitting there, I'm going to get my hand in front of my camera here. If you're sitting here going like this, 1, 2, like this, that's kind of a switching rate, up, and then the power goes off, up, and like this. Now, if you start increasing the switching rate, which is what you need to do as you increase your speed, now you start doing this. And if you sit there and watch your light, if you go too fast, the light really never seems to go off and on, right? So it always seems to stay on all the time. And the problem with the glass tubes is they don't have that really fast switching rate. So what ends up happening is their engraving speed is very slow. The cutting speed isn't too bad because, again, you're moving slow anyways, and you're asking for constant power, right? So the nice thing about an RF tube is that it's the heat stress on the tube is a lot less than it would be on a glass tube. So your life expectancy is a lot more, your power usage is less in terms of your input power. So, the big thing for a lot of people is just the longevity of the tube and the speed of the engraving that you're getting. So,
and that's the one of the main differences really between the Rayjets, the R series, the U series. Well, not the Galvos, but I mean the flatbeds. They have the R500, our R500 as glass tubes.
As glass tube, yeah.
And then we have metal tubes. But if you're looking at the Trotec sides, like the reason that they're, Jovan, you were saying that you had it for such a long time was the ceramic tubes. That's really the top of the top, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, he would have had a metal tube in his Speedy 1.
Well, did you know if you had a metal, Jovan?
No, he had a metal tube.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It was a while.
Yeah, it would have been a metal. No, it would have been a metal tube. So that's a very old machine. So yeah.
And the glass tubes, I understand, should be changed by a professional too. From what I understand, there's a large market of glass tubes out there in a sort of a retail web-based environment that you can't change the tube yourself. You have to send the unit back to get the tube changed. And I think it's all because it's a safety issue changing a glass tube, is it not?
Well, there could be a discharge of the actual energy coming out of the tube, and I think it's 8 kilovolts or something like 0.6 like it's a large discharge. I mean, it could kill you. So you have to be very careful when you're working with those tubes, so that that energy has been discharged out of the machine, so that when you replace them, because you're actually taking the leads off the tubes and everything like that, and then changing them. So, because if you look at a glass tube, all you really have is power on one side and exit point on the other side. On an RF tube, basically what you're doing is you're sending in a low voltage signal, and then that voltage signal is being amplified, and then that's being sent into the resonator to give yourself the light. So.
And then actually, Kayor was asking, I guess, Mike, for the video that you were showing, what power settings that you were using. So, I mean, we get this kind of question all the time. What's the power and speed of the videos that we post on YouTube? I mean, that really depends on, obviously what machines you have, what power that you have, what wattage that you have on the machines. But I can pull up a quick. There's a couple of videos to actually find your perfect settings. So if you go to YouTube and type in Trotec laser settings, so a number of things. You should obviously the Trotec database in your job control should already have the manufacturer suggested settings, so you could at least start with trying those out before venturing forward. But you can, if you type in Trotec laser settings. And then the first video here, finding your material setting. Oh, sorry. Trotec laser settings. And then this one right here. It's a full video on basically creating these grids and finding the best settings for your laser. So, Mike, I mean, when you did that video, do you usually test like on small squares before you do the full cuts?
I just do a small square, and then I adjust the power and job control as the job's actually running. That's what I do. I mean, I normally go as fast as I can. I normally doing the grid pattern is fine, but plastic, I don't really think it's something. I like to use this type of thing if I'm running with Cermark or something where I want to make 10 test imprints before I wash off the material, the Thermark. I normally just use a test square, and then I'll just adjust the power in job control as it's actually working, and then I'll look at it and say, oh, that looks pretty good, and then I'll run a test. The cut is easy. I mean, it's just a rectangle, and you just keep cutting until you get to the point where you feel you've got something that's holding the plastic enough. Maybe, like, don't forget, I think paper's like 10 thou. I'm sorry, I'm in imperial here, but I mean, you don't need a large amount of grab. So you want to go through and then break it, and then just check the edge and make sure that it's good. So just remember, whatever the manufacturer says, which is us or whoever, that didn't come down from Moses, right? That is what we feel is what they feel is a good suggestion. Sorry, guys.
And Mike would know. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I helped them chip that.
Beardless
remember when
Moses.
he broke the tablets? I made the replacement ones. But these are ones you start out with, and then you can always massage them as you need them, because everybody's a little bit different. What I say is not necessarily what is the right, because everybody's material is different, everybody's look is different, everybody wants a different effect. So use those as a starting point, and then you can change them and make them permanent.
And Jovan, what do you usually do when you're trying to find new laser settings?
Yeah, I mean, as Mike said, you sort of have the settings there to start off with, and then for me, it's often, whether it's the actual Trolase material or pretty much anything, it's a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but there's a bit of trial and error involved. I mean, I've got boxes and shelves of just offcuts from big jobs, and then I just leave the offcuts so that I can test later on, and then see, depending on the kind of effect I want to get, whether I want to go a little bit deeper, whether I want to cut all the way through, and not just with your acrylics or your woods or anything. I mean, even as I said, we do a lot of corporate gifts. So when I want to order a batch, I always order one extra, whether it's a notebook or a pen or whatever, just so that I can test and just make sure that I've got the ultimate settings right before I do the full batch. Which is in addition to, I mean, we do a lot of sort of custom engraving for clients' products. So if they want to bring in their own items, we say, sure, bring it in, let's have a look. And we sort of not demand, but we request that they bring, one item extra, so we can get the settings right before we, do, 50, 100 of their items. And you don't want to mess up 100 pieces for a client. So we always request they bring in one, so we can just test. We sort of know what settings would work, but it's always best to sort of test and get the perfect setting right before you do the full batch.
Wow, you guys did Office of the President. That's really cool.
There you go. Cool. Well, and I'll tell you right now, this is from years of experience. I can tell you right now that the number one issue that people have is they don't have the right power, right speed. Again, it's a combination of both. And normally most people are overpowering their product, and a lot of problems that people get are due to the fact that they're using too much power for what they're engraving. And it always I always tell people, try to use the least amount of power you can get away with, because that generates less dust, less heat, less wear and tear on the machine a lot of times. So.
Yeah, and this is also why we charge a setup charge. I'm hearing people talking about, exactly. we don't charge a setup charge. We don't understand why it's necessary. This is why it's necessary. In order to provide the very best product for your customer, you have to test, and you got to recoup that time and that product somehow. And so charging the setup charge is essential.
Exactly. I mean, we also had people asking, why is this, whether it's just one item, or 10, we always charge a setup fee, and they, for those same reasons, because you want to make sure you've got the settings right before they bring in, multiple orders.
Yeah, I can say that there's nothing more stressful than somebody giving you one product and asking you to do it, right? I did a.
I was
did a-
actually. I was going to ask about that. I remember Nicole from like a couple months ago. Nicole Davis. She said that she had to engrave an antique gun or something like that, and it was $2,000 or $3,000. Or also the gentleman from Dan from Buffalo, New York. He engraves these like super expensive, exclusive sneakers. Jovan, did you ever have anything like that, like a very expensive item, like an antique that you had to engrave?
Oh, we did not an antique, but we had a few customers bring in, one of those expensive pens. I think it was a Mont Blanc or something like that, or one of those fancy Parker pens. And again, with the CO2 on the Parker pens, at least the ones that have the stainless steel barrel, we tell them we can't do it. But if it has the barrel with a green or a black or a red coating on top, then I mean we had to test. I had an old Parker pen somewhere, so I tested. So that was fine. And then with the Mont Blanc, I had to actually search online and to see if anyone else had done any laser engraving on it. I mean, by the look, it sort of it looks like it's just got a metal coating on top that should be fine with the CO2. But again, if it's in Pula, I don't know, it would be like maybe $200-300. It's not something you want to say, yeah, sure, we can do it, and then you mess it up. So we actually had to test one beforehand, fingers crossed that it would work. As Mike said, based on the experience that we have doing similar things before, I sort of knew more or less what settings would work, and then you just fingers crossed and you hope it works, and it was fine, and then we could proceed with the rest.
Now, is that why you bought a Galvo, so that you could actually precisely mark these one-off parts?
Yeah, exactly, and avoid the stress of whether it'll work or not on a CO2.
That's what I love about the Galvos is that stress level of did I get it right goes way down with one of these things. Like if you're marking that antique pistol that's worth $5,000 and you're not charging $5,000 for the engraving so that you can replace it, the stress level gets pretty high, and you better be charging enough for that kind of stress. And so with a Galvo, it's almost unstressful.
I'm actually just showing I engraved a antique Zenit camera, the back of it. So I mean, I had lots of space to do it, and I just engraved a little dot to make sure that you can see it here, the little dot there.
I have a Zenit.
You have a Zenit? Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I've got one too.
Yeah. So yeah,
you guys are older than I am.
Actually, that one's from 1980, so it's not that old. But yeah, so
well, there's a lot of stress, because I remember when Lev, when he first started, he brought the guitar in for me to do the Neil Young.
It was a cheap guitar. It wasn't expensive.
No, but it's not the cost of the guitar. It was the fact that I would never have heard the end of it if I had blown the guitar, right? So you don't want to make a mistake, right? Because Lev will never
What are you talking about? I didn't know how to engrave back then.
Exactly.
We once had a customer who he was a hunter, and he wanted to get some, I don't know, ducks or whatever engraved on the wooden part of the rifle. What is it? The rifle stock?
Oh, the butt. Yeah,
the butt.
Yeah. And I mean, it was wood, so I was pretty confident that it would work. But it was just stressful to get the settings right physically, like how to position it properly, and because there was a bit of a curve, how to make sure that it engraved evenly. So I mean, that took a lot of time to set up. But I mean, unfortunately, you can't really charge an arm and a leg for it. But it was more stress than it was worth. But in the end, it came out nice, and customers happy, and then you're happy as well.
True.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So.
I was going to say, pretty much anytime Lev goes to engrave something, Mike says he gets stressed.
Well, we got 10 minutes left. Is that wow? Time flies.
There's some more questions.
Yes, Jovan, do you want to give us some more of your questions? I have a couple here. I often get a ghosting effect when engraving the shiny Trolleys gold or silver material. For example, if I engrave the word Trotec, I'll see a faint ghost version of the same text a little to the left or the right of the actual engraving. Why does this happen, and how can I prevent it?
To me, that's tickle power. Over tickle power. So the tube normally is always outputting power.
Sorry, did you say tickle power?
Tickle, like tickling.
Yeah.
What's tickle power?
So when in order to keep a tube ready to fire at the moment's notice, we always have to have the tube firing something. So to make this very short, there's a little lens inside the tube, and it's a mirror, and it bounces light photons away from it, but it lets a little bit of that light through. So with tickle power, we try to keep the power just enough so that it will just bounce against the mirror and not shoot any through, so that when a pulse of laser power comes out, and this happens in a billionth of a second, when the pulse comes through, it actually lets it out immediately instead of having a very small pause between shots. And so if the tickle power is raised a little too high, a tiny bit of that laser energy will be coming through. Now, on very sensitive materials like your Trolleys metallics, it doesn't take much, just maybe even half a watt to actually see an effect on that. Most materials you'll never see that on. On this stuff, you might see it. So if the tickle power is a little too high and there's too much power getting through, then you'll be able to see that. So a tech can often go into the back end of your software and turn that tickle power down. I don't know about the range.
So it's not something you can just set up in the settings. It needs to be done by a technician.
It needs to be done by a technician, because if you do it wrong, there's a possibility to harm your machine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What
Peter,
you can
I think
do if
is
you want.
Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Oh. Yeah. Again, he's making a comment down here. We used to have that problem happen all the time in the old days, and what James says was the issue. So there was, any old machines, there was no way to get around it. So what you can do if you want is put a black bar outside the engraving area. So just put a little line there outside of the material. So if your material's 2x4, make a bar at 4.1 or something, so that the machine, when it stops and turns around and comes back, it's outside the material itself. So it's turning around while it's over the actual bed, right? So again, you're not going to hurt the bed if it's hitting the bed, or you could put a piece of material at the end or whatever, right? You know what I mean?
What he's saying is that when the tube slows down,
that's when the issue is.
That's you're going to see more concentration of the tickle power marking.
You're normally going to you're going to see it where it turns around and comes back. Where it stops, that's normally where the line is going to be shown. So what you want to do is just put a little black line beyond that area, so that when it turns around, it's turning around off the actual plate, the material itself. Okay, so again,
but then won't that increase the time that it'll take?
It could increase the time a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, and again, that is the drawback of using that type of technique, right? So I mean, the other thing is you could put a piece of masking tape down if you were doing like a whole bunch, you could put a piece of masking tape down at the end, so that when it hits that material, when it hits that point, it's going into the masking tape, and then you won't have any issue. And again, those are a couple of things that we used to use to get around it. As Peter said, it could be a heat thing. We don't have that issue in Canada. I mean,
I've never heard of heat doing it.
Heat. Yeah, but again, that could be a problem. And again, it's normally only seen on the silver and the gold material. It was interesting because I thought that you were making reference to sometimes you can get a little bit of hazing around the letters when you're engraving the gold and
That's
silver.
what I
And
thought.
yeah, that's because of the protection of the clear coat that we put on top of the material, so that it reduces scratching and everything like that on that coating, the extra coating we put on the gold and silver. So when you go through it, there's a little bit of there's a clear coat on top, and if you really look at it on the side, you can see a little bit of a ghosting effect there. Most people don't really notice it too much. And if you use the go out of focus method, then you seem to lose a lot of it, but it is noticeable sometimes. So.
And then there's 2 more questions here from Jovan. I do a lot of cake toppers out of acrylic, mostly plain gold or silver and glitter acrylics. The mirror acrylics are also great, but I tend to stay away from them because I can't seem to cut them nicely as the others. To be more specific, along the sections where the letters are joined, I get small marks, sometimes even cracks in the acrylic, which on the shiny surface are quite visible, and resulting products looks messy and poorly done. Below is a test. So this is the image, is a test I did the other day. This one isn't too bad, as I lowered the power and increased the speed slightly from regular acrylic and did 2 passes. It came much better than before, but there are still a few marks, quote unquote, marks on it. So I know that the mirror acrylic is extruded, and some of the other ones are cast. I don't know, James or Mike, if that's why, or
I think I have a guess on this one especially. I can see there's some chipping marks on the edge where you've had to force it out of the part. It looks
a
like
little bit, yeah.
You didn't cut it all the way through, which means when you're forcing it out, those tiny sections there, they don't have a chance. I mean, there's too much stress for that little bit of material. So it's definitely going to crack if you have to force it out. Now, were you seeing this when they just fell out too?
Yeah, even when it falls out.
Now, are you cutting this upside down or right side up?
Right side up.
Are you doing it on a cutting grid, or are you lifting it above the cutting grid?
On the cutting grid directly.
Okay, I would try lifting it off the cutting grid, maybe 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters off the grid, just by using some blocks of acrylic or something like this. Because what could happen is that it's possible that you're having some back reflection issues, because the Rayjet does have a silver. It does have a silver bottom, so there is a possibility of a little bit of reflection. I know it's anodized, but it is possible to get a little bit of reflection that could cause some heat, and also maybe from the actual reflection of the grid itself, perhaps. Mike might have some comments.
Well, I guess my only question, that mark is on the back side, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, on the back side, it's got that white sort of layer on it. So when you turn it on the back, you don't see it, but you see it through the top.
Yeah, and so I would agree with Jimmy. If it's on the back side, that probably is heat, and it's maybe some flaming that's going on underneath. So certainly raising up the piece off the cutting bed may help you a little bit in terms of reducing the amount of flare back that's happening on the material. So, yeah.
Okay.
And certainly he's right. I mean, I could see the shadow marks on the at the base, which says to me that you need to use a little bit more power to go through. I know you're trying to reduce the amount of heat stress that's being done there. And again, you typically want something to fall out, because anytime you start breaking things, then other things break along with it, right? So, and the problem with some material is that extruded's not so bad, but cast is really bad, as you've got different thicknesses in the actual sheet itself. So, if you're sort of on the edge on the thin part and you get to the thick part, now you're not going to get all the way through. So you always have to have a bit of a margin of error there to accommodate for the discrepancies in the thickness of the material as you move across. And you will lose a little bit of energy as you go from one, as your beam gets longer, as you go to the bottom corners of the table, right? So.
Okay.
Jinxie there had a good comment maybe check your artwork for gaps. If there is a gap in your it's not congruent. The cut line isn't congruent, and then you go to push it out, and even if there's like a millimeter of incongruency, that could cause some stress when you're popping the part out as well.
We had a quick question from LCD regarding what Don, if you want to, I could bring the material website up. If you want to talk quickly about the Trolleys gold and silver and the acrylics gold and silver.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it depends on what it is that you're looking for. Obviously, in the plastic category, we would have the Trolleys metallics. So we have the Metallics Plus, the Metallic Scratch Resistant. There's a couple different things depending on, what specifically you want to look at, but they would have a variety of different silver and gold colors like Lev's showing there.
Yeah, so the Trolleys Metallic is on Jovan's first question with that square. That's
yes, the sort of 1 inch by 1 inch piece that we were looking at, exactly. And then second to that, we also have the Tro Glass Metallic, sort of near the bottom there. Yeah.
Well, I was talking about the mirror.
Oh, the mirrors. Yeah, absolutely. So we have those in 3 different colors. We have a rose gold, a gold, and a silver, and that's them there. They're unlike the plastics. They're one solid color all the way through, but they are. I mean, the mirror finish that they have is really, really beautiful. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, I'd be happy to send you a little sample of the color that interests you the most, for sure.
Yeah, that gold silver, that mirror is very, very nice. I mean,
it's really nice. Yeah,
it's very nice. Yeah. So.
And if you've worked with Tro Glass before, I mean, certainly as Jovan sort of pointed out, there are some sort of interesting, foibles that can come up with the mirrored acrylics, certainly, but it is very similar in terms of settings to any Tro Glass you've ever used before. So, you're going to be able to you'll have a good starting point for working with it, definitely.
I have a great question from Amy. She if you guys know her, she partakes every week on our 1 hour Rayjet challenges. Thank you so much, Amy, for participating. Jovan, what's the best thing about your job?
It's a good question. Well, as I think we mentioned, spoke earlier with, I think I mentioned it to James. We do sort of a whole variety of different things. I think you had one guest a while back. I think it was the fellow from Belgium. He just works with wood, and I mean that's his passion, and he doesn't want to do anything else. And I've sort of had my moments of trying to sort of figure out what it is that I want to do specifically. But then I sort of realized, with the laser, you can do so much, and you have a wide range of materials and products and options and customization and stuff. So it was sort of just try to do as much as possible, as in the best sort of manner that we can. I mean, I do have moments where I get tired of doing name badges and trophy plaques and stuff like that over and over again. But then every so often a special sort of customized order comes in, and then you can be a bit more creative and so show your creative side. And like with the cake toppers that you just showed, I mean, I had a while back someone asked me can you do cake toppers, and I'm like, we don't really do it, but we can give it a try. And then ever since then it's been a weekly thing of people ordering 2-3 cake toppers. And then obviously you've got your different types of acrylics, so you can present them in a much sort of varied range, whether it's the glitter or we even do them out of wood as well. So I think to answer the question, the best thing is, the diversity of what you can do with the laser, whether it's, just your industrial tags and plaques, or your name badges, or customized gifts and corporate gifts and all kinds of things. So you don't really have to be sort of, you can, if you want, you can just do one thing, or you can, do a whole variety of things, because with the laser, it gives you that flexibility and that freedom, which, as in these unfortunate times, it can be a blessing in disguise in a way, because thankfully we've been able to continue working even after the lockdown and everything, because if we were doing just sort of one specific thing, I'm not sure we'd be able to get, orders for that one specific thing. But because we do a lot of things, we're still able to get not as many, but we're still able to get, orders for a whole variety of things, which in this current state is a good thing.
So your biggest takeaway would be for people, we always ask to give advice to new laser businesses around the world. So I'm hearing the best advice would be to diversify your product portfolio in that sense.
In my opinion, yeah. I mean, as I said, it would be nice, if sometimes you can just sort of focus on one thing. I really love doing this, and I'm just going to focus on doing that. I think James mentioned in one of these podcasts, you do badges, a lot of badges, not because you really love badges, but because that's where the money is. So we do a lot of name badges, but we still have the freedom to do a whole lot of other things. So in my opinion, if you can, and if you're willing, try and do as much as you can. I mean, the laser gives you that flexibility, so you can do it. And then plus, as we mentioned, getting the Galvo, the U50 will broaden that range of services and products even more.
You'll do really well with that U50. That Galvo will really, in your business, that'll really help you out.
Yeah. Here's hoping.
Well, if I was in the awards business, I'd have one like that. So
yeah.
What were you saying, Lynn? Sorry.
I was saying that Jovan's had a lot of challenge in marketing his business, because in Botswana it's not as easy as setting up a website, because people haven't got access to internet, people haven't got access to data. Online stores are not very popular. Very few payment gateways actually exist in Botswana that you can use. Yeah. So the fact that Jovan's done so well and has such a good customer base is purely because of the fact that he's gone out and marketed in very alternative ways, including very old-fashioned ways, like making a flyer, which is handed out in shopping centers. So his website is amazing, considering
that's very good. Yeah,
he really had to go out and market himself in a very, very old-fashioned way in order to get his business to come to him. So all kudos to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, with the flyers and things, that we started off that way, and I spoke with Lynn about this today. With the flyers, we got to a point where we were printing out a lot of flyers and then not being able to hand them all out, and then we're just left with stacks and stacks of flyers. And then that's sort of where the idea came to, let's try and develop the website and sort of direct people to the website, which for the most part it's been working. But as she said, not everyone has data plans to access the website, but it is getting there. We are getting a bit more calls and emails saying, oh, I saw this on your website, can you do this and can you do that? So it's getting there. The online store, we made use of the previous lockdown, and sort of I worked on getting the online store up and running, which it'll take time for sort of people to realize that there is something here that you can order online and you get it delivered without having to leave your home. But there's still that, I don't want to call it a stigma, but there's that hesitance of ordering online. Yeah, but hopefully with time and as we move forward in that'll be more and more popular.
Well, even if it's a big bank, I mean, I see you guys doing big corporate companies, even the government. They go on your website, they see the professionalism and that you're a big company. They're more likely to trust you with their business versus if you were just a storefront.
Yeah, I mean that was sort of my looking at it from my point of view. When I Google something or I try to find something, if I see a website and that's the first thing that'll sort of make me think, okay, these guys have a website, they're more established than someone who just has a Facebook group. Not to knock Facebook groups, they've also done a lot for many smaller companies. But in my opinion, when I see someone has a website, then it's it adds a bit more to sort of the credibility of the company. And then when you see what they have and the range of products where you can contact them and they have a map, it sort of gives you that impression these guys know what they're doing in some way.
Yeah, we're already sorry, somebody wanted to say something? No? I was going to say we're at the top of the hour. We're actually over. There's still more topics we wanted to discuss we didn't get a chance to. Just a quick question. Do you personally know the president of Botswana?
Not personally, no.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that's pretty amazing. Okay, well, if you guys want to check out Jovan's page here, you can actually go to their website, lasertech.co.bw, and you can from there. Hold on, just going to bring that up quickly.
And just one final thing, Lev.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
with regards to the marketing of things, especially for small businesses, whether you've got just your first Rayjet or whichever machine, if you're starting out, I mean, as they say, marketing is key. So you try and do as much as you can, whether it's a website or even a Facebook business page, Instagram, Twitter, all those things, and Google also helps. If you can create a Google profile for your company, add, your products, your photos, location, all that helps. I mean, one little thing I picked up, I don't know, in one of the webinars was sort of adding like a little pamphlet or little leaflet with your products. So what we did was we made a QR code for our website, and then sort of little paper, sort of thin cardboard, or thin paper like tags or leaflets that we also engraved with the QR code, and just a small little message, thank you for your order. If you're happy with your service, please scan this QR code, leave a review, and that also boosts your status on Google, and when people search for your products, they're more likely to find you rather than someone else. So just try and make the most of the social media and the online marketing to sort of boost your business and what you do.
I would think if you're really, I was just going to say, I think if you're really heavy into, and you're in an area where probably a lot of people use phones, but they don't use a computer. So I would think something like Instagram is very important, because every guest that's on here, it's Instagram. We don't see all these beautiful products that people make unless they have Instagram. So that's very, very important. And I'm starting to, after all these laser jams we're doing, I'm starting to realize how important that Instagram is to profiling the products that you do, to have a portfolio that people can easily go through and take a look at. So
exactly.
Yeah,
and I mean, in this hashtag world, the more hashtags you add, the more people, when they search for various things, hashtag laser engraving, hashtag corporate gifts, and so on. I mean, the more hits you'll get, and the more people you'll reach.
Yeah, I mean, I know, Lev, I know you want to. I know we're way over time, but I to Mike's comment, I wanted to say it's not just that Instagram is an easy and free way to have a portfolio, but in 2020, unfortunately, although Jovan makes a very good point about having as many different sort of portals for people to find you as possible, there's also sort of an expectation from consumers in 2020 of a level of sort of sophistication in a lot of cases. So, depending on the type of consumer you're trying to reach, even if you have a very basic Instagram, page, sometimes not having an Instagram page is more of a knock against you than even having a very basic one. Because if you don't have an Instagram page, for some people, these days that might even seem kind of like strange or odd, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things that certainly there's no marketing activity that goes wasted. Certainly, I mean, Jovan on the flyers is a very good point of that, but I think the bigger thing to consider is also, like, if the customer that you want to try and reach, or even if it's a very broad audience, then there are some of those bases like YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and stuff that are good to get a huge audience for very, hopefully, little effort on your part.
It's like in the old days when you didn't have a yellow page ad.
Yeah, exactly. It would be weird. It seems weird.
Well, I mean,
$10,000 a year.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
I was going to bring it up before we go. If you type in Trotec marketing, Thomas Weinberger and I, this was a couple of years ago, we did a webinar on how to market your laser engraving business, where we kind of go through some tips and tricks on building your website and social media and all that kind of stuff. So you guys can check it out, and we hope to do more of this stuff in the future as well. That's just mad on YouTube. But I think we'll end it there. Again, thank you so much, Jovan and Lynn, for being a part of this. Again, our goal with these live streams is just to kind of bring together the global Trotec community, have a dialogue, have a conversation, talking about the issues that you're having, inspirations out there, suggestions for new laser businesses. So yeah, any last words?
No, but just thank you so much.
Make money.
Great
Make
job,
money.
Jovan. Great job. Great job. Good
Absolutely.
Great job,
Yeah, I mean,
guys.
just last words. I mean, as just to reiterate the point of, with the laser giving you the flexibility, if you have sort of, one idea, try and expand and do as much as you can with it, because you'll be able to find your niche, plus you'll be able to do, a whole lot more. So good luck to everyone out there, and thanks guys for having me on.
Thank you so much.
Jovan.
We hope that you'll be on again in the future, and stay
Here's
tuned.
hoping.
And, for sure. Well, thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks. Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.
Take care.